Hello world, this is DJ Craven and you're listening to the Craven Happiness Podcast. This is episode number 6. Thanks for joining us, and Matt, thanks for joining me.
Hey man, happy to be here. I'm excited.
Why don't you take a quick minute, introduce yourself to the audience, your name, we'll go into origin and where you're from and all that kind of good stuff, so start there.
Sure, so my name is Matthew Stearns. I'm owner and founder of Millennial Money Management, here where we're taking this video. Fee-only investment firm here in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and I hail from Sagertown, local boy born and raised.
Nice, the Panthers.
The Panthers, that's right.
So you're born and raised in Sagertown. Went through all the schools there in Pencrest then, huh?
Yep, Sagertown Elementary, Sagertown High School. My parents graduated from Sagertown. My grandmother did as well, so kind of a legacy family. They were actually, my parents' side of the family, I'm proud of it, they were the first family to settle on that side of French Creek. So
okay,
that lineage goes back quite a ways down there in Sagertown.
So when you say that side of French Creek, you mean the east side?
So that's the west side.
Okay, the
our
west
side.
Okay,
so the Sagertown town side is where Daniel Sager settled. And his cabin's still there by the dairy aisle.
Okay,
and on the other side of French Creek, when you're going up by the high school, that hill is called Brookhauser Hill, and that's my family.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So we got roots.
Yeah, you got some pretty deep roots there.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's good. And then through high school and through, I know that we obviously have seen each other on the golf course, but sports-wise, what have you got yourself into from the sports and growing up?
Man, it was a huge part of my life. I was 3-4 sport athlete in high school, but I played everything growing up. In high school, I played football, wrestling, baseball for most of my career. I also golfed for 3 seasons in there. My senior year, I actually played golf and football. And then in college, I went and played golf for Washington and Jefferson College on their varsity team.
Yeah.
So it's huge part of my life, a lot of who I am, still a huge sports fan, still try to play as much as I can, whatever I can do, but most of the time that's golf in the summer because that's what all my friends want to do. It's hard to organize a pickup baseball game or something nowadays.
Yeah, true.
So that's why I love golf, but yeah, that's really my focus when I was younger, and I'm thankful that it was. A lot of great relationships, things like that.
Yeah, what do you think? Take it through, because I'm in a very similar boat. Lettered in four sports in high school as well, and played 3 sports in college, and totally understand all of that. And I think that for me, sports shaped me in a way that I don't think I realized while I was going through it at a young age. Even like a young age, but then also certainly through high school and all of those. So, any stories, anything that you can kind of recall on that you have when you going through it, as far as all of your different sports, and maybe some the dedication that you have to have for certain things. And you mentioned playing golf and in football in the fall. Maybe touch on that a little bit, because that's obviously not easy to do for a lot of people. As if people watching, listening don't understand that's the same season, so that kind of makes a big deal there. So yeah, maybe talk anything in there.
Boy, there's so much there, as you know. There's just so many great qualities that you learn from sports, and a couple of them I think that you can only learn from a sport. Just things that really build character.
Right.
Okay, in a lot of different ways. A lot of sports has to do with sacrifice and suffering, a lot of pain and commitment and discipline. One thing that definitely stands out to me is all of the hours spent just training for very short periods of performance.
Right.
Yeah. And that's rings true in a lot of things in life. You work for years and years and hours for just a couple moments, but then it's worth it in the end. A huge part of my experience being an athlete was developing my leadership skills.
Yeah.
So I thought that I had tremendous leadership skills as a young person, just because I happened to take on leadership roles on those sports teams, no matter what it was. And I was kind of like that from a young age. So I was just kind of, I don't want to say I was born into that leadership role, but just by the way that things worked out, I just kind of seemed to be in it.
Yeah.
And then I developed it, and I got to become a better leader throughout my high school career, which is amazing to have those skills at such a young age, because that feels natural to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not something that felt like I had to learn. So leadership is a huge one. And then communication, understanding other people better.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lot of different personalities and a lot of emotion in a sports team, managing all of that, understanding it, how to wield it and make it a cohesive unit that gets a result, even though there's different things going on. So, and tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't imagine what my life would be like without it.
Yeah.
So many great memories that we all still talk about, you know what I mean? And it's not like this preppy, like, oh, you remember when we went to States things, you know? You remember when this kid like did this in the locker room, or you know, those trips on the bus and things like that, you know what I mean? And
sometimes it's the little things that can bring you back, and some of those little things are the memories that really would bring it. Yeah, I mean, obviously if you were successful or you had a big loss or a big win, those are certainly things that are going to stick with you, but some of those little things can really bring you back. And I wanted to interject on almost all those points that you put in.
Sorry.
You were on a roll. No, you're good. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You know, and it's funny because the first thing that you basically mentioned kind of comes into the one of the words that I like to use a lot, and it's patience, right? When you said you're going to put in a lot of time for such a small effort ultimately at the end when you're coming into an event or a game or whatever the case is, and that's so true in life as well. What's funny about it to me is that if you combine your age and my age, it's not even really that old, right? And we both are somewhat understanding that, and I think that that's something that a lot of people don't grasp is that you can have patience at a young age. I mean, you can still have that, and I think that's just very important to talk about. Is, you know, you think that sometimes something can happen, go back to like little things that can happen that can kind of sway you one way or another, and you can go back to some of that patience. And that's pretty cool that you were able to have that somewhat at a young age. And then going into the leadership role, you used the word natural. I was going to say that in there. It sounded like you kind of just naturally fed into it, and that's something that is one of those things that you can certainly teach, but sometimes it's not teachable. Sometimes we just naturally have that, you know, in there. And obviously the third one in communication is just paramount. I mean, in my opinion, for my professional career, communication is one of the top three for sure that you have to have in order to be successful. Because, and that's not even just it's in life.
Yeah,
right?
it's
I mean,
everything.
It's anything.
It's paramount.
Yeah. So that's good, and I would agree with all those. You know, from a sports perspective, I mean, you have to have that. There's I use the word dedication a lot, and I know I said it earlier to set it up, and that dedication that you have, and you use the word sacrifice. I think that kind of somewhat goes in line. I remember that I had a buddy that was not on the hockey team. He was on basically ski club. And I remember on Saturday morning I had practice, and I spent the night at his house on Friday night. He wanted me to go with him to ski club. Yeah. And I said, no, man, I got to go to practice. And he goes, well, it's just practice. You could just skip that. And I was like, you don't know anything about dedication. And of course, he just razzed me. We're in like 6th, 7th grade, you know, and I'm talking about dedication at a young age. So it was pretty sure for me as well that that was instilled in me. And again, I think that, you know, I've said this before. I said it on my first episode. A lot of that's instilled in you. You know, you've got DNA and you've got circumstance. And you know, I don't take credit for that. I don't do this and say anything that I say is not a humble brag for me. It's really it's an homage to my parents and everything that whoever raised me to get through all that. So
absolutely,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you've my next question I like to kind of ask is that you know, if you listened to my podcast before, I've asked it before. So give me kind of who was Matt Stearns, you know, either on the playground, in the lunchroom, or maybe at the party, you know, and you don't have to do all three, but if you want to just pick one that comes to mind, but give us a little bit of sense of still who you were in those atmospheres.
Sure. So it'll parlay a little bit with my experience as an athlete. it was a very unique situation going to school at Sagertown. Our graduating class, roughly 100 kids.
Right.
We had known probably 75% of us had been there since kindergarten, right? So it was so small that you'd known everyone, right? So there was no separation. In my class, and I'm super proud of it, there wasn't any bullying. There was cliques, there was different groups that didn't we weren't all best friends.
Right, sure.
But everybody had respect for each other and things like that. And 30 or 40 of us guys and 34 or 40 of us girls were athletes, right? So we had this big relationship that kind of spanned over everything that we were doing in school, whether it's the classroom or sports. We were always together. We had a long-standing relationship. And so I kind of carried my personality, I guess, like on the football field or baseball field was, I think, how I was like in school.
Mm-hmm.
I was an athlete, but I was also a nerd. Like, I tried to get good grades, and so I was always driven in the classroom. I raised my hand a lot. I was that kid. I spoke up a lot. But we also had, for a high school class, we were pretty mature. We held each other accountable. We straightened people up when they got out of line. And it's awesome now to look back on that, because we still get together, 30 or 40 of us,
right,
at least once a year, which is such a blessing. But to answer your question a little bit more specifically about how I was, I was like a little bit, I was pretty vocal, outspoken guy. But I've changed a lot since then. Actually, I feel like I'm quite a bit different than I used to be. Boy, that was a curveball there you threw me.
We're all a little different. I mean, on that regard, and give you a little more time here. I mean, we are all a little different, right? I mean, we all grow up, we all mature, even at our young ages of, not very old from high school compared to, our parents' age or even our grandparents' age or anything like that. I mean, obviously, we're talking about something that sounds like forever ago, because it was half our life ago, so to speak, and it wasn't too long ago, and that's not uncommon. That's not crazy to think about. I mean, we're all going to continue to mature, and it's okay, so to speak, that it doesn't matter, if you're different then than you are now. I mean, I certainly was different. A lot of people, if you asked me that question, I was kind of the person that would somewhat blend in. So we had a little bit more people than you did, obviously, at Meadville. We were somewhat similar in the regard that we obviously had our cliques and everything like that. I feel like I was a part of the popular crew enough to just be a part of the popular crew, but not certainly the popular ones. I was always in the athlete circle. That helped me a lot because I could know most of the people that were popular. Obviously played some of the sports and played with them since I was really young. I was fortunate enough to be halfway decent at sports as well, and I think that also helped. For me, I was the guy that I like to call it the 8 Mile rule, where I would bring up my insecurities or my shortfalls or what I think people would make fun of me before they would.
Okay, interesting.
So if you remember the movie 8 Mile, at the end of the rap battle, he basically just destroys himself. He goes first and destroys himself and then drops the mic, and the other guy has nothing to say because the whole idea of the rap battle is you're supposed to make fun of the other person.
Right.
So I did that obviously before I watched the movie.
I like that.
I did that way before I did watch the movie, and I did that instinctively. That wasn't something that somebody taught me. It wasn't something told me.
Sure.
That was something that for instance, Jankos was a huge thing in middle school for me, right? Our grade, Jankos, if you saw your shoes, you weren't cool, right? Like that was what the case was.
Gotcha.
We didn't buy, I didn't get real Jankos. I think I got one pair, but most of them were they were off-brand Jankos, which was not cool. Instead of the cool squirrel, I got a weird-looking squirrel on the back of my pants. So I would make fun of myself as a coping mechanisms to not have the people make fun of. It was almost kind of trying to create them or beat them to the punchline.
Yeah, get in front of it. Yeah.
So that's what I always like to say, because I've asked that question, everybody's giving me an answer, and I've just wanted to put that out there. That's my answer.
Yeah, I like that 8 Mile rule. That's really good. I'll tell you, I think how I could best be described is I was pretty competitive.
Okay.
I was a competitive person. Yes, I was in the more popular crowd, but we didn't have big crowds, so it'd be hard to kind of say, I was in several different crowds, I guess. I got along with a lot of people. I was the captain of the sports teams, the president of the school. So I was kind of like the guy in charge,
Right.
you know, a little bit self-righteous, confident, competitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But also, I wasn't a bully. You know what I mean? But I was in charge kind of kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I felt like I knew what I was doing back then, and I didn't really know anything.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
But that's who I was. You know what I mean? I was just that guy. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Leader. You were a leader.
I was a leader, a poor leader, you know, back then. I was,
Yeah.
I was a 16-year-old leader.
Right, yeah.
Of other 16-year-olds. So, yeah, that's what I was, you know.
Now, do you think that you recognized that at the time on really what that meant in, I don't want to say responsibility, because it's not like everybody was, you know, it's a little different than leader of a company or anything as an adult, but do you think you were cognizant of it? And again, it's okay no matter what the answer is, but do you think you were cognizant of, okay, hey, I'm the leader here? Again, I'll say before C on the sweater and before, you know, you were captain of things, but you know, do you think you were aware of that?
Yes, I was aware of it, but I was just developing it myself, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to say that I was excellent at it, but I was aware of it, and I was aware of myself becoming a better leader as I got older, particularly leading those sports teams and managing personalities. It's helpful because you're getting older and the people around you are getting older and maturing as well. So that's a big function. But I was aware of it because, like I said, I was always in that position, and I cared. You know what I mean? I think that was the point. Even though I was a leader when I was young, it wasn't just about me, and I think that was the most important point. Even though I was kind of arrogant for a young person, you know, I didn't care about my stats and stuff like that, you know what I mean? I cared about the team getting the W.
Right.
And that made me a better leader, you know, as I was maturing. But I was aware of it. I was aware of it, and
That's good.
And I think that helped me progress maybe a little bit faster.
I would imagine, yeah, because again, some people have these responsibilities they don't necessarily even know that they're really aware of, like what's going on, and that comes to the other word I like to use a lot about self-awareness and understanding yourself before you can really understand anybody else. You know, selfishly being selfless and all of the things. It's all pointed back to you. You know, and you're the only one that knows you the best, and you're the only one that really knows you. You know, nobody else really knows you, even the people that are closest to you. So there's a lot of truth to that. So go through high school, kind of hit that pretty good. Did you say you went to W&J
Yes, I did.
for school? What did you study at school?
So I studied international business and German.
Okay, interesting. We'll get to that. And then at school, you played golf down there. Anything interesting at school? Any good stories there? Or we can move on to where you ended up going outside of school. Any good internships? Any good tidbits?
Yeah. So W&J was a massive influence on my life. I went to W&J initially because I wanted to go into a study abroad program. I also wanted to study a language in college.
Okay.
So I kind of had like that vision.
Yeah.
I wanted to get out. Never been out of the country before or anything like that. My parents had never been out of the country up to that point. So that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to study abroad in college. And they have go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, what drove you to that? Do you know what drove you to that?
I don't know what the underlying feeling was about that. I just really knew that if I was going to grow, I wanted to get out and see some things.
Okay.
And I was really ambitious from an academic standpoint too, and I wanted to go and learn Chinese.
Okay.
And go over there. I wanted to come out of college being able to speak Chinese.
So you
Mandarin.
Yeah. Right. So your ambition was certainly with the language, but primarily almost the language so that you could then visit these countries.
Yeah, experience. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. I mean, we're both from Northwest Pennsylvania, so
Yeah.
get out and see the world is definitely is an itch that needs scratched. So, all right, so keep going. So you go into school.
So I go to school, and the first day I'm a freshman. I meet. I have like a freshman class. The guy happens to be the dean of the German department, and the foreign language department. The dean of the foreign language department, the head of the German department, talks me into switching and learning German.
Okay.
And this guy was pretty cool, so I'm like, all right, I'm in. Yeah, so I dropped the whole Chinese thing, and the international business program, you had to minor in a language
Okay.
to get that degree. But as time went on, so my sophomore year, the fall of my sophomore year, I went and studied abroad in Cologne, Germany,
Okay.
which was very influential in my life. I stayed with the German family. The family had a son that I became like really close friends with, still consider one of my best friends, and even his friend group they're my best friends. They come and see me individually. I go over
Nice.
there. So super amazing experience. Came back, kept golfing and doing my schoolwork and everything, and then my senior year, actually, Joe Hardy, who owned 84 Lumber, the
Okay.
Hardy family.
Yeah.
He came to W&J. He was close with one of the professors I had, and he wanted to make this multi-million-dollar sports facility down by Nemacolin Woodlands Resort.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came and he had this business plan writing contest, and there was going to be like a cash prize for if they wanted to actually use any of this information that was put together, this business plan. So I did that, and he cut me a $4,000 check.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So did you won, basically?
I took second.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I took second. And so
That's
I
awesome.
said, I was kind of ahead in the courses that I need to complete for my degree, and so I decided to go to China actually. And my senior year, the fall of my senior year, I spent in Hong Kong.
Oh, no kidding.
Not technically China.
Yeah. So,
Technically China, they wouldn't like me say that, sorry, Hong Kong. But yeah, so I spent 6 months in Hong Kong, so I kind of came full circle there and went and did that.
yeah. So is that were you studying abroad there, or were you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I was
You were studying while you were in Hong Kong.
both in Germany and Hong Kong. I was studying, taking business courses and language courses, basically.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so amazing experiences. Obviously, when you're there, you get a chance to kind of travel in the nearby
Yeah.
geographic area, and so just so many amazing people. I have friendships all over the world now.
Yeah.
Got to see a lot of things and learn a lot of wonderful things that you just couldn't learn
Yeah.
in your neck of the woods.
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Certainly. Yeah. Certainly not here in Northwest Pennsylvania.
So
too.
life changing.
So I've been to Germany. I've been to Africa, and those are the only, so I've basically been to Europe and Africa. So I've seen a little bit of those continents. I haven't been to Asia yet. So for me, just a jealous, selfish thing here for me, what's one thing that would be something that's just completely different from the Asian culture, or just even Hong Kong culture or whatever, while you were there in the 6 months, studying abroad?
Asia, I think, is just incredibly misunderstood, especially
By us?
by Americans. The Asian culture is very vibrant. It's very different than any other type of culture.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been all over Europe, all over South America. When you go to Asia, whether it's China or the Philippines or whatever, it's completely different. It's a completely different way of thinking. You still have Western ideas
Yeah.
in all of Europe and all of South America. You have Christian influence. In Asia, everything is different, and it's entirely different mindset. How people treat each other. Asians in general are very meek people,
Okay.
very unconfrontational, right? So very friendly but shy. So when you get to know them, they're wonderful people. But the culture is just really exciting, I think, for a Westerner because it's so different.
Yeah.
It's very exotic,
Yeah.
and a completely different mindset. And there's a lot to learn about it, to understand it, to be respectful about it.
Yeah.
But it's such a wonderful experience because it is so different.
Yeah, I would imagine that's so cool. I hope to get there someday, but that's pretty interesting. So, so that was your senior year. You said you went to Hong Kong,
Yes.
and then you came back and finished your senior year here, or you were senior year all there, or
No, that was just the fall semester. Came back in the
Okay.
spring semester and graduated on time. And
okay, yeah. So now what? You've got yourself a piece of paper that says that you graduated, you paid a lot of money for it, or somebody paid a lot of money for it, and now what?
Yeah, so the summer of my junior year, I got an internship at Bear Material Science.
Okay.
Which at the time was a part of like the Bear Aspirin company. Okay. But they were the bulk chemical division.
Yeah.
Okay, that goes in everything. This leather that we're sitting on, everything. And so I got an opportunity to get placed there right after college in their like executive training program, year-long program. They train you in sales, marketing, product management, logistics, all those things, and then they place you. Okay. So I was like, that sounds like a great opportunity to learn a lot of different expertises, you know. Yeah. A lot of different facets of business that seem valuable. I'm not 100% sure exactly what I want to do. So I went and did that for a year.
Okay. And that's in,
That was in Pittsburgh.
It was in Pittsburgh.
That was in Pittsburgh, yep. So I left there, did that in Pittsburgh, and then the time period came to an end, and they wanted to place me in a position in a location that I wasn't thrilled about. And I said, they kind of gave me an ultimatum, like, okay, you're going there or adios. Yeah. And I said the goodbye.
You said adios.
And I called up my brother. My brother and I have an older brother, Scott. He's 31. He's 31. Okay. And he's a graphic designer in Mercer. Does all my graphic design here. Awesome dude. But he was in a position up in Erie at Scott Enterprises that he was unhappy with, and we just wanted to do something pretty epic. And so I called him up and I talked him into quitting his job so we could go hike across the United States. Okay. Wow.
That's pretty cool. So where did that idea, have you always kind of thought about that? Has that kind of been in the back of your mind of like, I want to do, you say you want to do something epic, but obviously that's pretty epic, and I'd like to hear a little more details about it. So what does that mean, you're going to hike across the United States? Tell me what that means. I mean, I can guess what it sounds like, but give me a little more details.
Yeah, so and around here we're familiar with the Appalachian Trail. So there's really 3 long trails. They call them long trails in the United States. We have the Appalachian Trail, Georgia to Maine, and then you have the Continental Divide Trail, which basically goes from Arizona, Colorado, up through the middle of the country through the Rockies. Okay. And then you have the Pacific Crest Trail, which goes from Canada to Mexico through all of the West Coast mountains. Okay. Okay. And so we decided we were going to go out and hike the Pacific Crest Trail. Okay. Okay, so it'd be like hiking the Appalachian Trail, but out west. Yeah. Pretty much. And so that's what it was. Literally border to border, and you hike the whole thing.
How long did that take you?
So it took 5.5 months.
5.5 months, wow.
Yeah.
How was, boy, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a more specific answer other than how was that experience? I mean, that had to have been pretty unbelievable. Were you, you guys set it up and planned and kind of set up like, you know, again, as you mentioned, I'm more familiar with the Appalachian Trail. My wife's uncle did it. I've seen a movie on it. Not as much with the Pacific Crest Trail, but that I'm sure is similar where you set up certain stops where you can get more supplies and so on. I mean, 5.5 months is a long time on a trail.
Yeah, we could go down a deep rabbit hole here. Yeah. So I don't want to just like drop.
Yeah, but I mean, still, just give me some general highlights about it.
So Scott and I had never done any hiking before. Excuse me. But country boys at heart, you know, tough, gritty dudes, in shape, really comfortable being outside. We've done camping and stuff, but never overnight backpacking. Right. And we whipped up the idea and the plans in less than 2 months. Yeah. And a lot of people will take years to plan their hike. Right. So that's not enough time. And no practice hikes, anything. I mean, there's a lot of gear. You got to get trained with your gear. Right. So we just did everything shotgun and just winged it pretty much, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody. We suffered a lot because we did it like that. But we gritted out.
That's good. Now, is 5.5 months a pretty average time to do that in, or is
so? It is. Yes, I would say that's
Okay.
kind of right in the middle. But
Yeah.
it came kind of out of nowhere. We thought about it in Christmas. We talked about it. He like had a book on the Pacific Crest Trail, and we kind of got familiar with it. And we
Okay.
would joke about it.
Yeah.
And then it just like became a reality, like right now.
All right, we're doing
Boom.
this.
And he quit his job, and we were just boom, full gear,
Yeah.
full mode, and then out there.
Now,
But
did you started north and went south, or south and went north?
so we started at the Canadian border and hiked south. Only about 5% of through hikers, so that's people that are trying to do the whole thing in one fell swoop, do it that way. 95% go south to north,
Okay.
and that's a function of the geography on trail, because the first 600 miles in the south is just a desert, so you can literally hike that at any time.
Okay.
But then you run into the high Sierra Nevada mountains, and there's snow on it, so you gotta wait for the snow to melt.
Right.
But people start there because you can hike that and then get to the mountains, and the snow's melted, and then you can just keep going.
Okay.
But if you start in Canada, you gotta wait for that snow to melt up there, which isn't until the end of June.
Right.
So you have to wait for that snow to melt, and then you have to get past those mountains in Southern California before it gets snowed in.
Before it starts snowing.
So-
yeah.
Going south is much more of a race than going north.
Gotcha.
So that's
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. Well, that's really interesting. So I got to imagine towards the end of that trip, just to kind of transition into your next phase, and I'm assuming obviously we're going to get to the, you wrote a business plan and want some money, and you own your own business now, all of those things. But I got to imagine there towards the end of it, you're kind of thinking like, all right, like eventually this thing's going to be over. I certainly can understand, you're focusing on getting it done. But so where's the next step, and what's your thought process going into the next step of your life?
Well, the most beautiful thing about the trail is that you'd be hard pressed to find any more bliss and just time to have your own peace and think, and just pure unattached freedom from everything. I mean, we didn't have girlfriends. Family was healthy back home, taking care of us. We weren't worried about our careers, no families. I mean, we were just completely out there doing this hike with one another, out in God's creation, and there's just nothing you had to worry about besides putting one foot in front of the other.
Right.
Okay. And that's just an amazing state to be in that very, very few people get to be in.
Yeah.
And you get to experience and really think about a lot of things in that. I mean, that's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
That's 14 hours a day of that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about the walking part. So, incredible amount of time to think about what you want to do with your life, what you're going to do afterwards. It's kind of overwhelming when you get off the trail, because you've just been, I don't want to say doing nothing, you've been doing
Right.
a heck of a lot, but you haven't been doing anything in societal terms.
Right.
But in the end, you really had been, because in those 6 months, you had really a lot of time to figure out who you were, what you wanted to do with your life. You had a lot better perspective stepping outside of society and just being more introspective and say, what do I want? What do I value?
Yeah.
And I definitely value being out here in nature and this peace and solitude. And if you don't ever escape from the rat race of like regular life, you don't sometimes get to feel that so deeply.
Yeah.
So even though we weren't working or developing ourselves professionally, I felt like when I came off the trail, and I can't speak for my brother, I just kind of knew what I was going to do with my life,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool.
And that was?
I was going to start my own business, and I was going to do some type of finance. That was what I was really passionate about, basically investing. I wasn't sure how that was going to take shape, whether I was going to just try to be like a day trader or an investment advisor, or work at another firm maybe for a few years and start my own business. But it was going to be something that resembles what I'm doing now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So you basically found that on the trail, like that kind of somewhat solidified on the trail.
Pretty much. I'd been an enthusiast of the stock market since I was really young, like 12 years old. I started paper trading.
Makes sense.
When I was in college, I was trading penny stocks and options and futures, like, and skipping exams. Like, I was really that kid.
Oh, wow.
And at work, when I was working for Bear, after I had graduated, I'd saved a bunch of money, was constantly on my brokerage account doing that type of thing. And when I was on trail, the first thing that I do when I get cell service, which was like every 4 days, is to look at my investment account. And after a while, I was like, okay, you should probably just do this for a living.
Yeah.
The only thing you care about is just hiking around and brokerage account. So why don't you just
do that?
Figure out how to do it. You have the training, you have experience, figure it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and we mentioned it earlier about self-awareness, and what a better place to do it than on a trail, as you mentioned, because when you're walking, and I recently was able to do some walking, by myself, so to speak, and in my own head, and I certainly understand how that can be. The magnitude that you did. I mean, we were on the mountain for 8 days, so that's a whole heck of a lot of a different world. But I get a little bit of flavor and completely can understand what you're saying. And even if somebody doesn't have 5.5 months or even 8 days or whatever the case is to be able to get in their own head, somehow you got to be able to be self-aware, and I think that certainly led to your current success and where you're going to go, because that's what it's all about. I mean, there is this mentality for me that I have that you're not going to be able to maintain something if you're not really liking what you're doing.
Well,
you're not going to be able to maintain it for a long period of time, right? So the whole purpose of this podcast is to talk about happiness.
Yeah.
I think that's just so crucial, self-awareness, to understand who you want, what you want to do, and who you are to get to that happiness. And so that's pretty awesome that you were able to find that. One thing I want to note on that, just like kind of that asterisk, is that can always change too, right? And that's an okay thing. I mean, all of a sudden, you wake up tomorrow or you go hike another trail and figure out you're doing something else. I mean, that obviously could change. I don't think, probably isn't going to for you anytime soon, because it's obviously something you're passionate about. But so that's just a couple notes that I guess I wanted to say in there. But yeah, that self-awareness thing is big.
Yeah, you said something there. You said maybe you don't have 5.5 months, maybe you don't have 8 days. I challenge that. I think you have to make it. You have to figure out how to give yourself that time.
Yeah.
It's just so important. Even if you have a family or whatever, it's the most important thing that you're aware of yourself, how you feel, who you are. It probably takes a heck of a lot longer than 8 days, so I'd encourage kids to go through those experiences, obviously, when they're younger, you know what I mean? But I think it's the most important thing that you can do if you're in a place where you're confused or something like that, or unhappy. You have to make that time for yourself to become more self-aware and really figure out what you want. And a lot of times it means being alone, free of distraction, whatever your technique might be, meditation, just sitting on a beach, staring at the waves by yourself for a couple days, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think you got to take that time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that even if it's an hour every day while while you're working out, whether that be in the morning or evening or after the kids go to bed or whatever the case is, and everybody finds that differently. But I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. You have to be able to give yourself that time, because otherwise you mentioned it earlier, you're just running a rat race, and you're just being here, and until you can figure out your own self, until you can figure out your own happiness. That's just so infectious and contagious to everybody else, and so foundational. So there's no doubt about that. I think that it's just it's just so key. Excuse me. It's so key to everything. So let's go back. Let's go back into your story. So you are leaving Southern California or Mexico, and obviously coming back over here, coming back to Western Pennsylvania area, or what was the next step there? Did you stay there for a little while, or where did you end up going from there?
So, in that 5.5 months, I tripled the account on my brokerage account, okay? So doing nothing, just hiking on this trail, okay? And I'm a professional investor. That's not normal results, okay? So it happened, okay? And so I got off the trail and I was in a better financial spot than I was when I started.
Right.
And so I wasn't really ready to get down to work. So I actually went down and did some more traveling. I met up with some friends that I'd some Swiss friends that I had met in Hong Kong.
Okay.
We went down to South America and did some traveling. Spent New Year's down in Rio. Spent some time in Brazil, Colombia. Spent a month in Cuba.
Oh wow.
So I did a little bit more traveling. That was more luxurious because the trail was brutal. I mean, you know, you can romanticize it, you know, but it was absolutely grueling.
Yeah.
And our bodies were emaciated and deteriorated, and it took months and months and months for our bodies to heal from that.
Yeah.
And so I needed a little bit of proper recuperating time.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to come sit here in the middle of winter, you know, so I went and I traveled down where it was nice and
It was
sunny.
nice and warm.
Did my rehab that way. And then I came back full energy and I got right down to starting this business.
Nice. So what year would that have been, or how long
That
ago
was
was that?
in the spring of 2016.
Okay, so coming up on 3.5 years then, almost 4 years? 2017, so 2 years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years that you've been in business. And how was it, do you think that, I mean, we talked about your, certainly your drive for, stock market and all of those things, you mentioned it from a very young age, which again, that makes total sense. Do you think that you had maybe in the back of your mind that you would always do maybe your own business thing? Because certainly you could do this and not own your own business.
Yeah. So the being a business owner thing was in my mind for a long time, but it got reinforced when I'd done my study abroads and spent my time on the trail and done my traveling. And mostly from the sense of coming from the point of having personal freedom. Mm-hmm. There's so many people I like to visit around the world. I was just totally frustrated with the fact that somebody was telling me, you have 20 days of vacation a year. It just was gut-wrenching to me. You know what I mean? I couldn't live like that anymore. So there's some jobs you could work for a company. Like you could be a financial planner for Edward Jones and you'd have a lot of personal freedom. It's kind of your business. But I wanted to really be my own business owner because I wanted that personal freedom built in. But more than that, I really became obsessed with the idea of stepping out of the competitive world and moving into a creative world where I'm just creating something from nothingness that's completely my own, and I still try to run my business like that. Yeah,
no, that's pretty cool. I mean, on those 2 points, the first one of kind of that freedom, ness in there is pretty interesting to me, in the fact that I always say that it's not a matter of what you spend, what you make. It's more of a matter of what you spend. And you can do that as long as your finances from an internal standpoint allow you to do that, right? I mean, if you set yourself up that you're able to do that, it can be total freedom. And I think that could be the case for anything, even if you're working a 8 to 5, not that this is right for you, but for anybody, you could work an 8 to 5 job, work 40 hours a week, and then you've got so many other hours to do whatever else you want, whatever that may be. And you may not, if that's just a job that you're not making a whole lot of money, it's all about what you're spending with the money that you do make, and being able to get that delta in the black, so to speak, and not in the red. So
it's totally personalized. People go and work there 40 hours a week and love what they do. They love to come home and get their kids off the bus and be a mother or a father, and it's totally the way that you want your freedom to be. So my idea of it was different, and I knew that I wanted to be pretty unconstrained, especially you spend that much time in the wilderness, and something to get locked down to a desk like that's terrifying to me. Right. You know what I mean? Even though I do work at my desk a lot now. It's totally up to you to decide, how you're gonna spend your money and build your happiness. But the first part is knowing, what's going to maximize your value, right? We call it utility in economics. I love that word. Utility. When
I think of utility, I think of like natural gas, electric, those type of things. So that's cool. And that's interesting. So obviously things are going well. You're still doing it. Are you you're happy with your decision? You're liking the direction that everything's going for you?
I love it. it's just been an amazing journey. I don't know, I don't want to say propelled enough, but just moved enough that I've just moved along in the process and got it started, basically having no idea how I was going to get to the end result, right?
Yeah.
When I came back, I didn't even understand that I could work in this capacity without having been in the industry, okay? And so I started to understand things. Okay, so I can organize my own company. There's some financial things that I have to do. Then after I organize my own company, okay, then I can register myself to sit for all these exams that I need. And so I went through all this process, and it just step by step, uncovering the next stone until, 2.5 years later, we've got a firm that can do as much as everybody else around and more, completely operating on a different business model than all the other financial planning firms around. And I just love it. It's given me an opportunity to incorporate a lot of things that I care about as a human being into my work. You know what I mean? So not just my area of expertise, but all the things that I care about. Helping other people, helping people give away their money, helping people find contentment and confidence in their lives, taking away that stress of money from people. I mean, it's become a lot more meaningful, than just that brokerage account, that what it used to be.
Right.
And for it to develop into that is such a blessing, and I'm so pleased with it. I'm sure I'm going to be doing it for a really long time.
No, that's awesome. No, that's pretty cool. And I think that you mentioned something there, and to give you just a little bit of a chance to not necessarily plug, but just to maybe explain a little bit. I know that we've talked about it off air before, but you mentioned you do something a little different, maybe in the most layman's terms, and and obviously not too drawn out. But give us an idea of what that means and what you do different than others, for instance.
Sure. So I'm a fully independent investment company. So I'm a standalone investment company registered with the state and the appropriate federal bodies. But I did that because I wanted to operate under what we call a fee-only model. Okay, so fee-only means that I only get compensated from what I charge my clients. Okay, so there's no other compensation that I derive from anywhere else, which means that at my firm I don't sell any products. Okay, I don't sell any products, so I don't sell life insurance. I don't get a commission for using particular investments or annuities. There's none of that. Okay, so when a client comes into me, there's two things that happen. I do financial planning and financial advising / consulting for them as best as I can, or if they give me money to manage, I manage it on a platform that's free of commission and any other compensation.
Gotcha.
So it's an extremely transparent and clear-cut way to do business, and it's a very rapidly growing subset of the financial advisor community all over the country, but right now I'm the only fee-only advisor in Northwest Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. It's huge for clients. It's just everything about it is in the best interest of my clients.
Yeah.
Everything.
Which is what it's all about.
And it's such a refreshing way to do business because I just basically decided I'm going to just do everything in my client's best interest, and I'm going to forego some revenue that other advisors have, but you're just betting that people are going to respect that enough to overcome that gap there, and it's happened. And it's awesome because you just can go to sleep at night knowing you're doing things the right way. And it's a great way to do business.
Yeah, you're building brand, right? And it also comes back to what we almost first started talking about of this whole idea of patience, right? Because of exactly what you just said, of you might be leaving money on the table now for the idea that you're going to build brand that'll ultimately maybe come back or maybe not come back later and in the future, right? So it's all about the patience, and it's about you building the brand. And I think it's awesome. I mean, I think everything that I've learned and listened to about branding, I mean, that's the way to go. I fully believe that. That's what we try to do in our business, and is trying to, we try to do the right thing almost in every single circumstance. And you mentioned putting your head on the pillow. I mean, it's the only way to do business, in my opinion, because otherwise what are you doing? You're just like a snake oil salesman of some sort, and it doesn't fit. So that's pretty cool and interesting that you're the only one up here in this this quadrant of the state, our Commonwealth, to do that. So that's pretty interesting. So future plans for Matt Stearns, obviously got the company here. There's I'm sure a methodical way of maybe not growing too fast, but being able to stay within your means and all those things. But what's kind of the future look like here as far as you can tell or you can see?
Yeah, the two things. Well, I'll say one thing I wanted to say about patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you brought it up. One thing about patience is it's a lot easier to be patient when you have confidence in your vision.
True.
Right? So I think a lot of, everybody, you always hear the whole startup entrepreneur thing, 90% of them don't make it, the first 10 years. And I think a lot of that is because the person with that vision, maybe it was a vision on how they were going to earn a different paycheck, right? They wanted to earn money a certain way, or going into an occupation that they weren't positive that was like really their calling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you have confidence in your vision like I did, that was unwavering, if it took me 10 years to get to a profitability standpoint, I would have done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it helps to be confident in what you're looking at, you know what I mean? So that's one thing.
Yeah, and believe in it, right? I mean, you believe it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's just it's just something that you write on a piece of paper or on a pamphlet or on an email or whatever the case is. Like, you actually believe it, and when you believe those things, it perpetuates through you when you're talking about it. It's truth. It's the truth.
Right.
But anyways.
Yeah. So to answer your question, my vision, I do want to use my skills. So there's a couple certifications that you really need to kind of be at the very top of the financial planning profession. So that would be the CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the top mark. I've already completed all of that stuff, but I won't get that until June.
Okay.
So that will give me a little bit more. That'll kind of put me in the class, the group, and then it does take time, to really understand this industry, because I came from outside of this industry, into an area that's hyper competitive. It's been around for 200 years.
Right.
There's a lot to it, whether you're talking, even as a financial planner, you're doing a lot more than just investments, obviously, than what I do in my job. I mean, building portfolios and managing investments is my specialty, but all those other things, healthcare planning, insurance planning, estate planning, all those things takes a lot of learning.
Yeah.
So I've really invested a lot of time and energy into learning those things. So hopefully sometime next year, I'm going to get all those certifications, and I think I'll feel pretty confident in my understanding that I can go out and start training other advisors to be advisors using my model, the fee-only model. Just like you're used to seeing guys open up, Edward Jones shops or Raymond James shops. They're going to be opening up shops under my name pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then I can train them, and hopefully, I want to be the brand that people have they just trust.
Yeah.
So probably Erie, I'm looking. We'll probably stick here in Western Pennsylvania, maybe start going south. But this area up here in Northwest Pennsylvania needs a firm like mine.
Yeah.
That's doing it transparently, the right way, low cost. And it's just not here yet. It's just not an area that attracts advisors that want to work with the most affluent group of people, because this corner of the state's not the wealthy corner of the state. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or whatever. So advisors get sucked out of there, Cleveland or Buffalo, the metro areas. So somebody's got to serve that, and it's an opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah.
So that's my plan, and then bigger than that is I recently have gone under another certification training program which is called the Kingdom Advisor Certification.
Okay.
And that is a professional designation offered through Indiana Wesleyan for advisors that want to give Christian financial advice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so not necessarily, so my vision isn't to be Millennial Money Management, also can give Christian financial advice. I'm going to be turning this firm into a Christian financial planning firm.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow, yeah.
designated, designed here to serve Christians.
Wow.
Naturally, we'll be able and willing to help with all people.
Yeah.
You know, all people. Even people definitely from different religious backgrounds.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, actually. But that's really what I'm going to focus on.
No, that's
to
interesting.
serve those people. And it's really about giving financial advice coming from a biblical perspective. That's
Okay.
what it's about.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man.
So
That's pretty
So
cool.
those two things, that's going to take up a lot of years.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, I really enjoyed this talk here today. If you have any final thoughts, certainly feel free to jump in with anything else. But this has been great.
Hey man, I had a fantastic time. I feel like I did all the talking.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. People can listen to me all the time, right? I get little snippets all the time. That's the idea, is to get the guests to talk through it. I think it was great. Man.
Well, I think, if I may say one thing.
Absolutely. That's what I just gave you the floor.
I think it's an amazing topic of discussion, and I thought about it a long time. When I was a senior in high school, I graduated at the top of my class, so I got to give this speech.
Okay.
And I wrote that speech about happiness.
No kidding.
That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to tell all of my friends about, all the people I was graduating with. I didn't tell them to go out and get motivated. I just told them to go out and find their happiness. Whatever that was.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very deep discussion. I've thought about it for a long time. My thoughts have changed on it since then. But I'm glad that somebody like yourself is kind of pushing the envelope and going out and talking to people. But we hadn't gotten a lot of time to talk about our own definitions of it. So so if you would, I'm just curious to hear. You've obviously had a lot of conversation like this. What have you refined it down to?
Happiness?
Happiness, the pursuit of it.
Yeah, all of it. So my definition of it, in a simplistic form, is to be able to wake up every morning with a smile on your face and have empathy and gratitude for just being alive. Right? I mean, there's a statistic out there that anybody could Google on the odds of your mom and dad having sex at the right time, and it's like 400 trillion to 1, right? So if you don't understand that, there's you got something crazy with you. But so that's my simplistic answer. When I talk about the deep is a lot of the words that we talk about. Self-awareness, patience. We didn't talk about perspective much today. You mentioned it early on about being on the trail, having perspective, and having a different perspective than other people. So I think perspective is a big one. I think another big word that we didn't talk about is judgment. Not only we're in a very, very judgment world, it's a natural thing for a human being to judge others. It just is. And I think that once you stop judging others and stop judging yourself for things that you're doing, you can find a happy place a lot quicker. Now, everything that I always say is it's not easy to be happy. I think it's easier to be unhappy. It's a lot easier to complain about things. It's a lot easier to judge somebody else. It's a lot easier to throw stones. I mean, that whole stones in a glass house type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And we don't know other people as well as we think we do. And when somebody cuts you off on the road and you're all mad at that person, or somebody's going too slow and you need to get around them because you're late for a meeting or late for something else, late for something important, and you're mad at that person, or somebody's rude to you in the store, or the cashier lady is just not real present and she clearly hates her life and that makes you upset. You don't know strangers, so how you don't know the people that are closest to you. You really don't. I mean, the person that you know probably the most is yourself. Spins way back to self-awareness. You probably don't even know yourself that well.
Yes.
And that's just a general statement, not obviously to you, that's to other people. So all of those things is what I think can come into happiness. Those are a lot of the key things that I have just heard and have just made sense to me. I've heard them and they've been communicated to me in a way that I've understood that, okay, that makes sense. Because as I mentioned earlier about like the whole 8 Mile rule, like that just is how I am. That's how I deal with things. But I don't judge other people. Like I really don't. I don't know their context. I have no idea what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
They have something wrong with them. I got something wrong with me. Nobody cares what's wrong with me. Like really, there's maybe 1 or 3 people, 4 people in the world that care about what's wrong with me. Nobody else really cares. They don't care that deeply. And until you understand that, like, if they don't care about what's wrong with you, why should you care? Don't judge yourself on something that you did. If, for instance, I'll give you a parenting example. If, let's just say that you decided to go do something else that somebody might judge you on instead of spending time with your kids, right? Whatever the case is, you go play golf instead of spending time with your kids, right? That's a good example for us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go play golf after work instead of going home and spending time with my kids. I'm not going to judge myself because I feel that somebody else, in keeping up with the Joneses, that I should be going home and playing with kids, because I know that I need that golf. I need the golf because I need the competitiveness. I got to have that. You mentioned competitiveness. Mm-hmm. I got to have that. Mm-hmm. The interaction, a little bit of the socialness helps, just unwind on things. I need it for me so that I can be with my kids, and when I'm present, I'm actually present with my kids.
Absolutely.
So that's a long answer, but that's kind of generally what I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
You had a lot of time. Heck yeah, dude. It makes total sense.
Well, I've had a lot of time to think about it. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this, right? I mean, the idea of this is to have one person get affected and just try to reach themselves towards more happiness. I do have to change that, as now I need at least 2 people, because I did have one person actually reach out to me and say that they
that's amazing.
Are moving towards their happiness.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
what a gift.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, so that's it, man. That's it for me.
I'll say I feel compelled to say this because it affected my mindset a lot on happiness.
Okay.
And I think it might help a lot of other people. So I just wanted to say this, or else I was going to feel like I left something off the table for this conversation. Unless we're going to have a part 2. But.
No, go ahead. Yeah, we might. Yeah.
But one problem that I have with happiness is the semantics of it, the way the word sounds and what it invokes in our mind, because of the way that it's marketed to.
Yeah.
So the way businesses market towards happiness, like a great example right now is the car commercials where the family's coming out of the house and there's a car wrapped up in a bow,
yeah,
a Christmas present, and how it makes them happy,
right? Yeah.
Right, and that like
yes,
that word happy is a very emotional state.
Yes,
that happens, and that is true, and it's one of the reasons why I've kind of reframed the word happy in my head. Because happiness is, and to an extent, an emotional reaction, right? There's several chemicals in your brain, right?
That gets released.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everybody knows. But I started feeling a lot better when I quit worrying about trying to get into that state where those chemicals were getting released.
Right.
And a word that's a lot more powerful for me is contentment.
Okay.
So moving on from being happy and trying to get into this state that's relying on chemicals to moving towards a state of contentment. And what you're describing is contentment.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's more contentment, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's more contentment than it is happiness.
Right.
being grateful, being satisfied, not judging yourself, not judging others. You're content with where you're at.
Absolutely.
And being content, there are certain moments like that are going to happen in your day. If you go out there and you hit a car, you're going to be unhappy.
Right.
But you can be content in that moment knowing that you've got insurance coverage, you've got money in the bank to handle this, somebody's going to come pick you up. So that happiness stays in flux, but you can get into a state of contentment that I think is more constant, and it's something that I try to frame in my mind about, all right, Matt, you're content, you have enough in life, you have family, you have health, you have all of these things, and worrying less about that word happiness gives me problems, you know what I mean? Because
I hear you.
It's emotional. So that's huge for me, I think. I really love the word content, and trying to find contentment in your life, because I think it's more stable than happiness. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that hits it right on the head, because everybody understands happy and understands the word, and I get it. The way that it comes across, it doesn't come as a good word.
I know that's what I think.
No, I get it. Yeah,
mean it. I know how you mean it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think a lot of people it comes off.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I think that whole idea of happiness and the definition of it, which I didn't mention, is, can't we make success be happiness or contentment? Success is not about how much money you have in the bank. It's not about the clothes that you wear or the things that you buy to impress other people. That's part of all of it as well too. And that part of that contentment is that you're content with what you have, right? Mm-hmm. You're content with what you got. Mm-hmm. You're not doing it for somebody else. If you want to go buy a Rolex because you like the Rolex and you like it, not because you like the way that it looks and you think you can pick up girls.
Right.
That's contentment.
Yeah.
And then I think that could be completely interchanged with happiness.
Yeah,
I agree.
Sure.
I agree. Sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good, man. I just wanted to share it, and it's been helpful for me.
Yeah, I think it's great. That's the whole idea why we're doing this, because I can sit here and talk in front of the camera, but I'm just going to say the same thing over and over again. So I can talk to other people, so that way it gets a little bit less boring. Yeah. It's kind of the idea.
I think that's what happiness was supposed to be, but we let people take over the word.
No doubt. So. No doubt. All right, well, with that, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for joining me. And everybody out there, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That was fun.
That was awesome.